Now, you'll be glad, like, you're not all going to see all this stuff on the right hand side down here when you create the opportunity. Ignore it. Okay, it's for the dual language system, as Rolf said earlier on. So you're not going to see that. It's going to be much less. It's just, you know, in terms of things are visible to you on the screen and much simpler. So we're only dealing with the things on the left hand side down here, essentially. And what I'm going to do is take you through creating the opportunity, the things that I know some of you have issues with or queries about. And like I said, I'm going to go on to create some ourselves. So first one is you obviously choosing your provider. You know that if you're a provider, you obviously don't get that choice. You're only creating it on behalf of yourself all the time. As an admin, you can select a provider if you want to. If you're an admin and you want to create your own opportunities, and as you know, you have to exist on the system as a provider because that's who the emails go to and the communications in relation to the opportunity. So you put in your opportunity name, say under 21s football coach. Okay, put in the description here. Now, these are two very important fields, as you know. Reason why these are two, because if it doesn't sound interesting, people are not going to join it. Okay, so it's got to sound interesting. The title's got to sound interesting, and the description's got to have enough information on there that the volunteer knows what they're going to be doing, basically. Okay, so they have a good understanding. They've read that, and they say, okay, I can kind of picture what's expected of me. So usually in the description, kind of more is better. More is a good thing. And the benefits and the perks and the skills required with these 4 boxes here: name, description, benefits, and skills required. It's about 2 things. It's about making it sound interesting, and it's about knocking down any of those mental barriers that they put in the way. Okay, because volunteers, they'll often hear they'll read I don't know, admin volunteer required for admin role or something like that, and they I need to know Excel, or I need to know Access, and you haven't mentioned any of that stuff, but in their head they will go quite often to that worst case scenario, and they won't join the opportunity because of that. So if there is no skills required, then say there's no skills required. And even if there's no benefits, a benefit is, as much tea as you can consume in a day. Well, that's a benefit. Make it sound joyful, make it sound, a friendly atmosphere for them to turn up, and they're giving up the free time after all. The opportunity name is important as well because of the words that you use. Like I say, if I'm a volunteer searching for under 21 or football or coach, it's going to bring up this opportunity. If I actually search for the provider as well, provider name, test the provider, it'd actually bring it up as well. That's just kind of a separate thing. But if they don't appear within these words here, then that's when we're using those search tags down the bottom here. So be aware, just be cautious of every time you get to these search tags, what words have I used in the title? Does that make sense? Is there any other words I'd like to be included, so when a volunteer types it in, it still brings up this opportunity? Okay. With the categories, I think you're all okay with categories. I don't seem to have an issue with categories. Just make sure when you're choosing the categories that there's not much overlap. Sometimes I see overlap, like you might have a category called events, then you have a category called racket sports. And then what happens if you have like a tennis event? Is that events or is it racket sports? And then suddenly you have different people adding it to different categories, and there's no, which doesn't make sense. Where really it should be quite clear cut which category opportunities belong to. You get these search tags here, as I mentioned before, with the reporting, which you can clean up yourself. So these suggested search tags, these come from existing search tags that you've typed in when you've been creating the opportunities. So that's just another way. By adding a suggested search tag, it's another way for us to try and keep your data clean. So people go, oh, I'm typing in admin, and as I type in admin, not one here. As I type in admin, if it says administrator, I could click on it, and that means that it's more than likely everyone's going to be choosing administrator because it appears there as a suggested search tag, and it avoids you having those admin, administrator, administrative, administrator, those kind of scenarios. Okay, we've got the opportunity on here, so you can choose your image on here. Choose an image on here. It's always dangerous, isn't it? Choose that one there, and you can move it up and down, as Rolf said before. Brilliant. We've got opportunity badges. So someone's asking about this in the breakout session, the opportunity badges. What are they? That's the question. So basically it's Rolf has added some excellent ones on here, which feel free to steal if you want to. But essentially, if you want to label an opportunity with a particular thing, like Duke of Edinburgh Award, like you say, oh, this one's suitable for those who are visually impaired, then it's a more visual way of applying that badge or that thing, whatever it is, like this is suitable for DofE, applying that to the opportunity. So when the volunteer goes to search for it, they see the badge appearing down the right-hand corner, and when they click on it, it says Duke of Edinburgh, tells them the name of the badge. And they can even filter the opportunities by badges as well. I'm only interested in ones that are suitable for the visually impaired, for example, or I'm doing my DofE, Duke of Edinburgh, so I only want to see opportunities that are suitable for that. So if you don't use opportunity badges, I suggest that you certainly have a look at it. If you want to steal these badges, by the way, if you go to Super Admin menu, Setup, and then go down to Opportunity Badges, you'll see them all listed, and you can just right-click and save them to your computer, because there are some very good ones that is picked out there. Okay, so we've got our image, we've got our badge, so we've got opportunity location. Rob's covered all this. Okay. We've also got create a fully managed opportunity or self-managed opportunity. Choose the create fully managed opportunity if you can. There's still a little bit of work that's got to be done on that one because it's still beta, isn't it? So create the fully managed opportunity if you can, when you're actually getting the hands on in a minute. Then we've got these, this is to do with, like, say, the application process. This is not restricting. This is not about restrictions. It's not about saying, oh, only these certain volunteers can get onto it. You're saying, well, you know, I may restrict it's restricted to certain volunteers, but this bit is about what happens when they try to get on the opportunity. Okay, so it's changing the actual process from them seeing the opportunity. For example, if they see the opportunity and you make an apply an opportunity, then the button changes from join to apply. So, and when they click on apply, it says, thank you for applying. You'll be informed if you are successful at a later date. So it changes the communication. It doesn't build up the hopes of the volunteer. It lets them know that this doesn't mean you're on it. This is just, it means that there's an extra step that has to happen. And that extra step, as most of you know, is the provider needs to approve the applicant before they're actually on the opportunity. Okay, same with the roles required. I think Chris covered a session, a breakout room in regards to roles. The roles are essentially just like a list of hoops that the volunteer has to go through before they can get on the opportunity. Okay, so maybe you've got a role that says maybe the opportunity you're creating is like driving a minibus or something like that, and you say, well, I've got a driving role created, and that driving role includes the hoop of they have to have seen this health and safety video, I have to have seen their driving license, and how many points, knowing that they got less than 3 points on their license. They have to have signed this piece of paper. There's things that have to happen, and maybe by the volunteer, maybe some of those tasks, them hoops that they have to jump through, are set by done by the admin. So you may say, like, one hoop is you have to upload your driving license onto your profile. The second hoop is admin has to check the driving license, and they can see that, and the volunteers can see, okay, I've done the first bit. I'm now waiting for the admin to do their bit before they can get on. I'm sure Chris covered this in the breakout session. But yeah, so you got your roles. Ask for references when joining. Well, I could sit here for 2 hours talking about references alone. But references, for those who you don't know, there's a fantastic feature within the system which lets you actually create the reference forms, and it processes them all through the system. In terms of, you create the reference form, you can even say, you know, how do you know this person? What is your relationship with this person? The kind of questions you'd expect to get, you know, on the reference form. And when the volunteer tries to join it, again, because it's part of the applying process, that's what it's talking about here. When they try and join it, it'll say, yeah, it's great, it's nice you're interested, but you can't come on yet until you've completed a reference. And it'll ask them to put in the referee's name and email address, and then it will send off that reference form to the referee, as they're called, and then they'll complete it online. There's no downloading of documents or anything like that. It's really fun. It's really good, actually. And then they submit it back, and it waits for the admin to authorize it. And once the admin has authorized it, then it lets the volunteer get on the opportunity. Now, I know some conversations I've had previously and earlier on today as well. We are doing a bit of work on some of these things in regards. I know some of you are probably thinking, well, that's great, but the references for the provider, it's nothing to do with me. I'm the admin. The provider is someone external. It's a tennis club down the road. Okay, that's something that we're looking into. There is, as I mentioned before, in one of the breakout rooms, I think it was, There is reasons why we can't just do that, you know. But some of these things we may be able to add to the provider functionality, and some of the things we won't. We wouldn't be able to. Just keep that in mind. That's all. Who is actually processing it? You know, criminal record checks processed by the admin, pretty much always. References processed by the admin. Well, all them cases, it doesn't make sense that a provider can create an opportunity which requires a reference form if the provider works for the tennis club down the road and the person checking the reference form is the admin for your organization, obviously. So you have to keep in mind of your organization setup, where your providers come from, whether you can use these particular functions. Right, now we've got to send a customized email when joining this opportunity. Okay, now we know we have the standard emails that they get when they try and join an opportunity. Okay, so the standard emails being the ones that you see within your customized emails page in here. Okay, and that would say, you know, thanks for joining this opportunity. Here's the name of it and the time you meant to turn up and all that kind of stuff. That's great, no problem at all. And you can change the wording of them in the page I just showed you before. But you may want to change it specifically for this opportunity. So actually, for this particular opportunity, I want the wording to be slightly different. Somebody, Jamie, I believe it was, mentioned earlier on the ability to customize the apply as well, so the apply email. So for an applying email, and I think that's a really good suggestion. I'm certainly going to chat to the development team about that and see if it's something we could potentially squeeze in. But that makes sense. If we can change the joining email, we also can change the email they get when they are applying for it.
Steve, there's a question coming from Carrie. Do you have to actually put a number in, or can you just type the tag name? About the tags, I think.
Sorry, that should have been, it should show as a hashtag. So when you go back to tags, I've noticed when I've been helping providers that, you know, when you're adding tags for them, do you have to actually put a hashtag and then a name, or can you just put the name and upload it? Because it allows you to do both.
Oh, these tags here, the search tags. Yeah, you can just put in the name. You don't have to put in hashtag.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, you just put in the name. And next time I create an opportunity and started to type in admin, it would appear on the right hand side in that search tags there. So suggested tags there. Yeah, no worries. Okay. What do we say? Home opportunity, fully managed. We've got to this bit here, didn't we? Here we go. So I think that's a really good suggestion. That's something that I'm certainly going to pass on to the development team about the applying email. So this is, like I said, that's about what happens when they're trying to get on the opportunity, how that changes the process of the volunteer getting onto the opportunity. Do you want to allow everyone? I think this is a great addition. This cuts out a lot of things, because for a lot of you, they say, yeah, they just want any volunteer to get onto the opportunity. But for many of you, that would be the case. So it cuts out them having to read through all those different restrictions and this, that, and the other. But for this particular example, I am going to say, no, I am going to, I don't want everyone to see it. And then you can restrict it by, obviously, age, gender. You got to have a good reason for gender, obviously. And if they're outside of a changing room or something like that, that might be a good reason. But you put age restrictions on there. Must have a criminal check to join. Now, this is something we've been kind of battling at this end, how to kind of deal with these some of these things, whether, you know, must have a criminal check to join, must be inducted to join. It's whether some I know from experience, some customers say, well, actually, but I don't want the volunteer to see any opportunity if they can't get onto that opportunity, which is easier said than done. Trying to actually program in a system to do that is near on impossible, because of all the different ways that you could restrict an opportunity and the way the search pages work. So we're considering changing it to allowing every volunteer to see all the opportunities, and then obviously they can decide when they click on an opportunity, it will allow them to see, oh, right, it's not suitable for me because it requires a criminal record check and I haven't got one, or it requires me to be inducted, so I need to speak to the admin, or whatever it is. Has anyone got any thoughts on that? I know that doesn't work for some of you, because for some of you, you would say, well, I don't want them to see that opportunity, and unless they've got a criminal record check. But be aware that it's something that we're aware of, and it's we're still trying to work out the best route to go with that particular one.
It's also possible that you could create some of these restrictions within the role. as well, as opposed to them being a opportunity restriction. So there's a couple of ways that that you can work around whether or not restrictions are enforced at an opportunity level or enforced at a role level. But if anyone wants to know more about that, they can watch my video on roles at their own time.
I think I've got a roles module as well. I might attach to it somewhere down here. But yeah, that's thanks, Chris. Okay, key things as well at the time now. Key things as well that I know people tend to fall over on is must be inducted to join, and people instinctively think, oh, it's induction onto the opportunity. It's not an induction onto the opportunity. It's whenever the system uses the word induction, inducted, anywhere in the system, it's talking about a generic induction onto your system as a volunteer. Nothing to do with any particular one opportunity. It's a generic induction. And most of you probably won't have an induction. Well, I know for a fact, most of you don't have an induction process. It's you let them register. When they try and get on certain opportunities, then you'll have an induction specific to that opportunity. There's no generic thing that every volunteer has to do before they can get on any opportunity whatsoever. So just keep that in mind. When you are saying inducted, it's not specific to the opportunity. It's the generic induction. Okay. Must be linked to provider to join. Linked to provider. Does anyone know what that means? We'll see who's been listening and training. Anyone know what that means? What does it mean? Linked. A volunteer is linked. I think we would like the same opportunities for volunteers linked to provider. All right. Anyone know what a linked to a provider is? No. So does anyone know what volunteers a provider can see when a provider goes and searches their volunteers? Oh, no one dare put their hand up. Is there any hands up, Chris? I can't see the rest of them. The ones linked to them. Yes, they are linked to the ones that are linked to them. That's right, Jamie. Thanks for that. So when it's saying must be linked to a provider, essentially it's in one of the four ways that a volunteer can be linked to a provider. And without me turning this into a training session, I'll quickly go over them. Okay, what the main one is, a volunteer joins one of their opportunities. That's it, they're linked to that provider. So that point moving forward, that provider can see that volunteer's basic information and they have a basic level of control over that particular volunteer, i.e. they can add that volunteer onto one of their opportunities because they're linked, the volunteer's linked to them. Okay, the second way is as an admin, you can manually link a volunteer to a provider. So as an admin, Joe Bloggs turns up and they say, I want to volunteer with you and I really like tennis. I don't know why I keep going to tennis, but I really like tennis. So, oh, great. Okay, well, I've got a tennis club down the road who's they're a provider down the road, and yeah, I'll link you to them, which means that provider gets an email and then they'll be able to contact the volunteer, even though the volunteer is not on any of their opportunities. That relationship's been made because they've been linked to them. The third and fourth way, I won't go into too much, but it's basically as a provider, you can invite people on to register on the system, and they end up being linked. The volunteers end up being linked to them. And the fourth and final way is they volunteer registers via the provider's profile page. That's the fourth and final way. But that's been, so they're the four ways anyway that a volunteer can be linked to a provider. Because you'll notice if you log in as a provider and you go to search volunteers, they don't see all volunteers on your system. You only see volunteers who are linked to them on their system. For obviously for GDPR purposes more than anything else, you wouldn't want them to in most cases. Okay.
Emily's just made the point as well, Steve, that where a provider gets an automatic email if a volunteer has been manually linked to them.
Will they provide? Yes, I believe so. I believe so. If they don't, then I will chase that up.
No, they do. She's telling. Oh no, gets an automatic. I don't know if she. Are you asking Emily? Or are you telling? I'm not sure. I think you're asking.
I thought they did.
No, asking. Sorry, asking. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a question mark at the end of it. I missed that. Yeah. So we will check that. I'm pretty sure they do get informed when a volunteer has been linked to them. But
if they don't, I'm sure it's something
they should.
They should. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure it does. Are expenses payable on this opportunity? So I know there's a few things bouncing around here, and I know from chatting to you that Chris mentioned earlier on about these have kind of you can download a certain app and they can do it, these pay your expenses automatically through the app. That's brilliant, and it does lots of stuff for you automatically. You can make payments directly to the volunteers without seeing all the bank details and this, that, and the other. It's all done via the app. This is not about that. This is about if you say it's a managed expense, sorry, just saying expenses are payable, that's fine. That will just reflect that on the volunteers page when they see the opportunity. Oh, they're paying expenses. And you could put in some expense information, 45 pence per mile. That's about £1 a mile now, isn't it? The price of fuel going up. So they put in whatever the limitations are in there. But this bit in, this managed expense, this is, if you say, yes, it's a managed expense, then for this opportunity that you're creating, you're allowing volunteers to upload their receipts and describe what the expense is. And it will even, before they do that, it'll even ask them for the sort code and account number. And that will be shared with you as an admin and the expenses page here. Okay, so those who pay expenses, it's a really, really useful feature. Even if it's like, say, well, I don't pay them personally, but my finance team does, then there's a download, there's ability to kind of export it to an Excel spreadsheet if you want, or just email it off to the finance team. Here's this month's or this week's expense payments, and it will have all that relevant information that they need to pay that volunteer with receipts, which you've known, which you've seen already. So it's a really good function there that's been built.
Jamie has a question. Can we have hyperlinks in the expenses section? We'd like to link to our own expenses app. Rolf, I think that one might be better answered by yourself.
You can certainly put the address in, but it won't get turned into a hyperlink.
I think that's for security, isn't it, for website?
It's always hard when you allow HTML to sanitize it, so people don't put crazy things in. It makes it quite difficult. So if I can avoid it, I do. But yeah, you can put the link in. It just won't behave like a link. So you can just write the web address and tell people to go there.
We can also have a conversation with you separately to this, Jamie, specific for your app as well, because it'll be kind of customization we can have a chat about.
Yeah, so you can put in like my my expense, can't even spell, expense system.com. You could put in something like that, but they're not going to click on it. They're going to have to copy and paste it into a new tab or something like that to actually go to that page. But it's just nothing we can do about that. It's just security. That's all. We can't allow HTML in, as Rolf said. Okay, promoting and sharing. I bet you're all dying to have a crack at this new system, aren't you? We're nearly there. Hide opportunity from search results and make secret. Why would I want to create an opportunity and hide it from the search results? Anyone know? I want to start picking on
you might want it to go to a specific volunteer group or volunteer.
Exactly. Yeah. You may have. Thank you, Kerry. You may have an opportunity. You say, well, I've got 5 people that I want to make aware of it. I don't want anyone else to be made aware of this opportunity. Just those 5 people. So I don't want it to appear on the search results. That's when you'd hide it. But that leads to the next question, which is, well, how do they these 5 volunteers, how do they know it exists? They know it exists via the promoting option. Okay, so when you go to the opportunity, once you've created the opportunity, there's an option on the left hand side that says promote, and you can promote it directly to those 5 volunteers, which means that you and those 5 volunteers are now aware it exists, but nobody else does. Pin opportunity to top of search.
Sorry, quick question.
Yeah,
from,
sure.
Anne. We don't have an expenses app, but we have a Bax form in resources. Should I add a link to that there? What I would suggest, Anne, is you maybe put an explanation that they can find the form in either the opportunity downloads or in your general resources download. That might be a better way of getting them to that expenses form. Steve, would you have anything to add to that?
Yeah. I mean, I would certainly, in that scenario, I would certainly be inclined to seriously consider using the expenses module within the TK system, because it's easy to say, I think, as an admin, it's easy to say, well, finance used to deal with that, and I just carry on. I don't want anything to do with that, and that's perfectly fine and normal, and I'll probably be the same in all honesty. But at the same time, you could show them, by the way, we can get all these evidence and the rest of it, and they can let the volunteers enter in their sort code, account number, and describe what their expense is themselves, and save your finance team having to do that work, whoever's making the payments. You can let the volunteer do that work, and then you have it all nicely bundled in one place that then you just send that. It's not hard to do. You just download it and just email it to them, to your finance team. Then they can actually process the payments. I think that's what you said. I think that's what you.
But I think we appreciate, and obviously, that local authorities are.
Yes, local authority. You know,
they're not keen to change.
It's the council's form, so yeah, I'll try.
But the form could be put in the opportunity document download, or it could be put in the general volunteer system download area. You've got 2 document hub options there.
Yeah, I've got it in the hub, in the document hub as is, you know, but it's just you know, so I'm just wondering, should I bother use the manage expenses, or should I probably not then, or you know,
if you could get your finance team on board to do the managed expenses, it'll make your life easier. But if they're not for changing and they're quite happy in doing what they're doing, then obviously sticking with the paperwork that you already have and using the form download will be your second option.
So they have to fill out the backs form every time for each expense?
No, just the first time. It's a standard form, you know, but once they've got it, once they should be on, that should be on it.
Okay, it's probably still worth using the managed expense, because then the volunteer describes the expenses and you can approve and unapprove individual expenses before it gets to the claim time, I suppose.
Still upload receipts there then?
Yeah, they can upload a receipt on there and describe it and put an amount in and all that sort of stuff. So you'll have all the information you need to proceed. They'll just have to have done that backs form beforehand.
Okay, because it might, I also, so they have to do 2 things then. They have to do like a form, just a basic form that tells what the expenses are, you know, where they went from A to B, you know, what it was. So essentially, is that what that would cut that one out then?
Yeah, it copies the same information. I guess take a look and see if it duplicates enough of what the form does. So yeah, they put a date in, they describe what it's for, they put in an amount, and they can upload a receipt.
It would certainly save somebody a load of work. Somebody's doing work there necessarily in that setup that you're talking about, and I think it would save a lot of work. And yeah, somebody, may not be you, maybe them, finance team, whoever it is, but it's going to save somebody work, I think. So I'll just try it. Just create a expense, an opportunity which has a, you know, just join it yourself, make it, hide it. And yeah, and just join it yourself or put yourself on it, then just process one and just show them this is what it does. We capture this information. Is this going to help make your life easier? That's how I do, and just show them, and then they can make the final decision, then, can't they?
Well, we can always help you with that, and if you need any support, so just
yeah, sure, yeah, absolutely.
Thanks very much. Also, I think, sorry, because I don't want to hog this, I know you've got to move on quickly, but I think at last time I did an opportunity, I did the hide, because I was, you know, I knew a couple of volunteers that I was going to add, because we're not at volumes yet, you know, so I didn't want somebody searching, finding that, you know, I then add them in. So I did the hide opportunity. But then when I went to look for it to add them in, I couldn't find it. So I went back in and had to amend the form. So that didn't work for me, but I was maybe doing something really silly there. So yeah,
but it will still appear within the, you know, your opportunities page. You'll still see it listed as an opportunity, as an admin, because you can see everything. You'll still see it listed as an opportunity.
I don't think I did. I don't think, but I don't know. It must have been me then.
No worries. I'll have another look at that. If you have a problem with it again, just give us a bell, and I'll have to help you out with it. Okay, opportunity part of an event. You'll know what events are. I think I won't go into that. Share opportunity with link-wide groups you belong to. Now, some of you, I know, are on link-wide networks. And there's a thing up here when you go down to your shared opportunities that you can see if you are or you're not. So the link-wide network is a group of TeamKinetic systems that are linked together, which means that when you create an opportunity, as we are here, I can say, yeah, share this one with my link-wide network, which means that it will appear on those other systems. So we have the one in Wales, there's 30-odd systems, or Manchester with the universities and the city council, same thing. Okay. Now, yeah, that's great. Just keep in mind when you are, what you're allowing them to do. You're allowing volunteers who have not been through your registration process to join your opportunities. So just beware of that. Okay, which usually when that happens, either people say, well, that's fine, I'm happy with that, or they try and bring their registrations in line with each other. Like, what is the onboarding, you know, the onboarding process. So for example, if you say, well, I always interview my volunteers after they register, and then you're linked to a system where they don't, well, suddenly you've got 2 volunteers on one of your opportunities, and one of them's had the interview with you and the other one's not had any interview with anybody because they come from another system. So just keep that in mind, that's all. Okay, when you get down to this bit and your hands on, just ignore all this Milo stuff down there. Okay, that's just, again, it's another thing that's specific to a particular systems that are set up in Scotland that are linked to that Milo thing. You don't have to worry about any of that. Same with the dual language, same with the Milo. Okay, and that question there as well. Okay, there you go, get rid of it. Okay, click on the next button, upload files post opportunity. What kind of files might you upload? What might the volunteer upload once they've joined the opportunity? When it says post opportunity, it means they're on the opportunity. It doesn't necessarily mean after the opportunity has taken place. So what kind of files might they upload after they've joined an opportunity? Any ideas? Carrie's, I'm gonna pick on people. I'm gonna pick on people. Helen, Nick, you're biting your nails, Helen. I'm going to pick on you.
I'm not biting the nails, but I knew you were going to pick on me.
I
don't know with the photo ID, or this is before they've actually started, is it?
So this is like when they've seen an opportunity they're interested in, they've joined the opportunity, but it gives the volunteer the ability to upload a file onto the opportunity, which the provider can then see. So, yeah. Any ideas? So I'll give you one example. Okay, you might say, okay, this opportunity's got a, I don't know, it's got a health and safety form, and you attach that to the opportunity. That's great. So the volunteers who join the opportunity, they can download the health and safety form. By using this option here, it could allow them to re-upload their completed health and safety form before they even turn up for the opportunity.
Yeah. Okay. So they could maybe then, would that be, did they sign their volunteer agreement, post it up there, upload it that way?
They could do. This is specific to an opportunity. You could do, but this is specific to an opportunity. This is. Actually, another good example. Photos. That's one that's kind of taken off now in terms of popularity. Is people uploading photos to opportunities. So you have to keep in mind, uploading photos. But the only person who sees the files that are uploaded is the volunteer who's uploaded them and the provider of the opportunity. No one else can see the files. So if I'm a volunteer and I've been out there, building a dry stone wall or something like that, then and my friends took a picture of me and shared it, I could upload that onto the opportunity, and if I say yes, please, I can even describe, please upload any photos, and I could use that photo then for the next opportunity, which is dry stone wall building, whatever it is. Okay, so it's a popular one there.
From the chat, Steve, people have suggested for PVG or DVS in the UK, or volunteer policy or documents for DVS. Those three types of documentation would be better placed in your general document hub rather than being stored on an opportunity-specific document hub. The opportunity-specific document hub is really focusing on the people that are going to be on that opportunity. So you're not so much putting your generalistic documents in there. It could be a printed map of where you want them to meet on site. It could be a document that tells them some health and safety information. It could be a poster. It could be those kind of documents that are going to be in the opportunity-specific document hub. Whereas the main site has a general document hub that you would put things like volunteer policies in. Documents for your DVS would probably be uploaded, if you're not using our new DVS service that we're going to be offering, they will be uploaded into your documentation and ID section that Steve's showing on the screen right now. For PVG, again, I would imagine you probably want to capture those documents using the document upload feature that Steve's showing you right now on the screen. So there is some particular places for generic documents, and there's some particular places for documents that are specific to the opportunity the volunteer is going to be attending.
I suppose, yeah. I mean, yeah. Thanks, Chris, for that. I think you're kind of right in a way that I could imagine some opportunities where, some scenarios where the volunteer might say, okay, well, I've got this particular document. I want to share it with that person on that opportunity, but I don't want it to be attached to my general profile. Because remember, things added to the general profile, they can be viewed by the provider of the next opportunity that they join, because it's in their general profile and it shares like the basic information, the qualifications and this, that, and the other. So you might say, well, I don't want every provider. I want to decide exactly when the person can see this information, in which case then you may use it for that scenario. Yeah, it's a good couple of examples there. Well done. Right, I am looking at the time here. I think the rest, we know session-based, flexible, everyone knows what that is, don't we? And it creates the opportunity. The only key thing I want to make sure that you do on here, when you're going to go on there in a second, have a play around with it, is make sure that you choose create fully managed opportunity. Okay, the rest of it's up to you. You can have a play around with it. Once you've created the opportunity, if you want to quickly go and impersonate a volunteer and see what it looks like, then you can do. Yeah, feel free to go into the system in a couple of minutes and create them, but make sure you use that fully managed opportunity if you could. Okay, if there's any questions, any more questions of anything I've covered so far before I let you crack on and get you open up a new tab and log into the beta system. Any other questions? No. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to let you go to the beta site. Is this address here? You're going to log in as admin. Okay, so I need to log out first. 1 second. It knows I'm logged in on another window. Close everything down. Close down. Close down. Okay, now if I log out of this one, finally, go back to the home page. Right, you want to go to this page here. It's beta.teamkinetic.co.uk/vk/admin. I'm going to put this in the comment section now. And that's going to take you to a page which looks like this. Oh, you can log in using your normal admin login details on the beta site. Am I right to say that, Rolf? I'm pretty sure I am. Yep, trust me, I am. I can't hear him, but trust me. So just put in your normal email address and password in here, and it should let you log into that beta site. And what I want you to do is go and create an opportunity. You could. Oh, thanks, Alex. You beat me to it. If you've got any questions, just pipe up. I'm happy to answer them in the last 10 minutes.
As we're at that point now in the day where we're giving you a chance to have a play on the beta site and go and have a bit of an experiment. If anybody can't access the beta site, just let us know, and I'm sure that we can create an account for them, Steve, that people that may not be admins but are on the call, so they can go and have a little look around. But we're sort of moving now into the last half hour, really, 45 minutes, depending on how many questions you guys have. And it's really just an open forum. You've got myself, Rolf, Steve, Alex, and Isabella on the call. And we're here to sort of field your questions, talk through any particular thoughts or considerations you have. And it's as open a forum as we can possibly have to sort of listen to any thoughts you may have or any questions you have. So Tony there, can we help? Can we set up an account on the beta site for people who haven't got the admin privileges on their own site, Steve? Was that possible?
Everyone can use can log into the demo site, which doesn't have all the new features, but
no, they're looking at the new create ops page. That's what we're looking at. Have we got like a catch-all, Rolf? You put like a catch-all
for the next hour or so that people can play around with?
Yeah, I'll create one now.
Okay, we're going to put the details in the chat for you, so you'll be able to log in. With the beta site, it is still in beta by its very definition. So there will be some bugs and there will be some issues that people may bump into. If you do spot anything, do let us know. Pop it in the chat, and we can record that down. Phil's got a question. Phil, is there an existing place for volunteer certificates to be added?
Yes. So when you go to volunteer management, search volunteers. Volunteer certificates, you mean like their qualifications or their first aid certificate, things like that. I'm assuming that's what it means. So you click on the name of the volunteer. Is she from Neighbours or something? What's she from, this lady here? I'm sure I've seen her before.
I don't know.
Rings a bell. Looks like Anne from Neighbours. Anne, is it? From Home and Away, maybe?
You can see Rolf has popped in some information for you to be able to start to log in. Just waiting for him to pop the password in.
So, sorry, just answer your question there, Phil. So when you go to any volunteers profile, whether it's search volunteers page or whatever it is, you click on the name anywhere in the system, it takes you through to this volunteers profile page. All this whole menu is all related to the volunteer that you're looking at. And one of the menus down here is identification, CPD, and docs. Okay, and volunteers can upload from their side. Okay, so I could manually add, as an admin, I could go in there and add qualifications and documents to that volunteer if I wanted to. There's also, people don't realise, there's also private notes you can put in there if you're against volunteers. You know, not saying you would, but awkward volunteer. I'm sure some of you mentioned them in the past, which only you can see. From the volunteers' perspective, I'll show you what that looks like. So from the volunteers' perspective, they can go to their docs and qualifications, and they too can add them in there.
You can also, sorry, Steve, you can also use the badge feature. That if you offer qualifications and volunteers get certain accreditation with yourself, there's no reason why you couldn't create an open badge that represent that qualification that they could have against their profile and in their volunteer history. So using the badge feature to represent accreditation and qualification is something that you could certainly do as well.
Yeah, I mean, under their achievements, they see loads of stuff here. That's actually the badge because it's just a beta system. The timeline and this, that, and the other. There's also the ability, what I was going to say, when you're adding, you as an admin are adding a qualification onto a volunteer, you can lock it as well, which means that the volunteer can't remove it or change it. So if you have a qualification which is specific to your organization, I can't think of an example, but I mean, something you say, okay, they've done this qualification with us, then you can add it to their profile and you can lock it, which means that they can't alter it and change any information, expiry dates, or, you know, or delete it or anything like that. Okay, and these qualifications are searchable. Again, going back to my bit before about search volunteers page, the filters on there, you can filter by qualifications. Show me every volunteer who's got their level 1 football certificate. Great. I know these people are probably going to be interested in their level 2 course or joining this football opportunity.
Don't feel you have to type questions into the chat anymore. If you just want to turn your mic on and shout them out, that's not a problem whilst we're here.
I'll just say them. I don't have to shout. Yes, I've used this area before. Just wondering if anything more specific for volunteer awards and recognition. Well, I think anything more specific for volunteer awards and recognition. I mean, there's quite a lot of features in there for volunteer awards and recognition. So you've got those of you just cracking on creating new opportunities. That's fine. Okay, don't worry, just crack on doing that. But those of you who are listening in, then including the person who asked the question, I shall show you. So when you go to setup, you've got you've got award badges here. You can create an award badge and say like volunteer of the month, volunteer of the year, all that kind of stuff. And you can put an image on there as well. And then you can manually assign it to the volunteer. So when you go to the volunteer's profile, click on the name anywhere. Okay, you've got these available badges here and you can click on them and they go across to there. And then the volunteer gets that badge and gets an email saying congratulations. So you can do that. Yeah, that's one. There's also the achievement badges in there, which are the incentives. You know, like the more hours they log, the higher badge level they get. Like they see when they log in. You can't see it. This is actually one of the badges, but they don't normally look like that. Obviously, they're like shields. But yeah, is there anything in particular that you're after in terms of volunteer awards and recognition?
Hi, Steve. This is Phil.
Hi, Phil.
So I can't put the mic on too much. I've got kids around. So yeah, I mean, we have volunteering certificates that our students receive each year, and when we upload them, we always have to use the something else drop down list because it says qualification, CV, and something else, and none of them quite fit what we're putting on there. You see, so that's why I just wondered if we were using the right area, or if there was somewhere else.
I think the badges would be the best bet for you, Phil. And create your certificates as badges that can be then awarded, as Steve just showed you.
Can a badge link to an actual document though? Because they get like a signed certificate from the principal and such like.
Ah, do they? Okay.
Yeah, so I'm happy. The badge is good to help identify that as well.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking where else, because they can also get other volunteering certificates from elsewhere, like I don't know, the Lord Lieutenant's awards or other volunteer national volunteer awards and stuff. So for young people and students, certificates like that are quite good for their CVs. You see,
of course.
What would you?
For that drop down, the only one that's important. I mean, there's some that will always have to be there. Like identification is linked to the ID checks for a volunteer, and qualification is slightly separate, and they get split off. But in terms of the other stuff underneath, CV and something else, they're pretty nominal. So we could add other things there. Ultimately, the best thing would be to allow people to add their own things and just define them how they want. So I can certainly add, you know, if people have got any suggestions for the sorts of document types they want to add, if they want to send them over, and we can maybe aggregate them into some sensible ones and add them as a stopgap.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what are you thinking? You got a particular word in mind? Put you on the spot now, Phil.
You after word from me?
Yes. What word? How would you describe that particular type of qualification? Whatever you call it,
accreditation or awards and recognition.
Yeah,
I think that's generic enough for us to put that in there. Yeah,
something like that. Just because usually we put them on, it's not so much a student will upload it because they'll never get around to doing that. They won't even think to do that. But we put it on. We put it on so that then the students know that all of them are there, and especially for those that never quite made it to the physical or the actual award ceremony and picked it up. Actually, it's a really good way of, and for those that did anyway, just putting it all on their profile, and then they can collect these. You see from year 1 through to whenever they graduate.
Right.
So each year they can get these, and it's a kind of a way of building it up. Yeah, and we also have an award you see with which like V Inspired is relaunching, so we already have a partnership award with them, which we would put up there as well. And there's a few other awards that people can get to do with their projects, do with their other stuff they're doing. So it could all kind of come together quite nicely somewhere.
There's a nice idea there as well, Phil, that as you add the certificate, we have a badge added automatically as well. So linking certification and badges.
Yeah, I like that. I like the idea of badges. I just never quite got to that, Chris. But if it links to it, then that could
it saves you a job. Yeah,
exactly.
Just looking at thank you, Phil. Cheers for the question. Just looking at the question from Emily, which is a great question. Do you provide any resources to be passed on to providers and how to navigate the system? It is a good question. It is something that we are very aware of. Rolf has popped in some information below of what's actually in the system. The short answer is, because our customers vary quite considerably, it's sometimes quite difficult for us to have generic information that suits the variety of providers that you have. But we have got some quite generic provider materials available on our YouTube channel that you can see on the screen right here, right now, that give you some basic guides. We did some work with Rosie with the Make Your Mark campaign, trying to put together some basic information to help you recruit providers onto the system. But it's certainly something that we are keen to develop more, because we know that we're arm's length from you guys, and you're the providers are your arm's length often, so we're sort of 2 steps removed from them, and we know it's something that we could potentially offer greater support with. But it's trying to find that right balance with what is generic and what works for everybody versus what you need to tell your providers. That's
the issue that I've always come across in the past. When I've gone down this road, I should say there's a video link on their YouTube which takes them through everything that a provider would ever need to know. But I've had to do that to make it generic, because some people want some things to be explained to providers and other people don't care about those things, and that's why it's always a case of, okay, well, this is everything that it does, you can send this to them, but if you really want it specific for your organization, for your providers, in the way that you want them to create an opportunity, then it's something you obviously create yourself. Otherwise,
we have seen some, and this is kind of where that having that channel for admin to admin communication, we've seen some really good stuff done using what's the Teams streams on Teams, where people have created little videos showing people around their site and what they expect them to do. We've seen another tool called Loom that Steve's got on his computer, which is a free tool to use that allows you to create little screen grab videos that you can show around. So there's some nice tools out there that can enable you to create really interesting and really quite easy to create resources for your providers. But we are quite keen that if there is things that we can do to support that, or you have got some good resources, if there's a way we can help you share them with others, there feels like there's an easy win there that we've not quite sussed out how to enable.
So Rolf beat me to it. Yeah, that loom.com, I cannot praise that piece of software any higher. It's so useful. So basically it allows you can install it as an extension on Chrome if you use Chrome, or you can download it to your desktop, but it allows you just to click on a button and it records a video in your voice, and then you can just send it. It stores it like on a YouTube channel basically, and you can just send the link to somebody. It doesn't save it to your computer, it stores it in the cloud, and you just send the link to somebody. So it makes it so easy trying to explain things, even from our side, trying to explain things to you guys, and people have certain issues of how to do certain things. Loom is a godsend. So yeah, if you haven't looked at Loom before and you are struggling explaining to users, providers, and this and that how to do certain things, look at Loom. Loom's the best one I've ever come across. It's really good.
Like I say, you can use Loom. There's Streams. If you're on Google, you can do the Google Meet like we're doing right now. You know, those quick sort of accessible videos are really useful to help your providers sort of navigate some of those early challenges when they first get to the site. Similar to what we've done for volunteer onboarding, it's very much in our thinking as well to have something similar for providers in the near future as well, where we'll have a customized provider onboarding set of steps that will enable you to more softly introduce a provider so all the features are available to them.
I mean, there is help, as Rolf just pointed out before. You know, when you are logged in as a provider, say if I'm on here now and I just impersonate a provider quickly, just for those who didn't see it when he was doing it. So if you're logged in as a provider, they've still got help and resources, video tutorials, how to log hours, creating opportunities. All these are going to need to be updated, some of these, aren't they, for the next update? Obviously, creating opportunities will. But yeah, so there's videos on there which will be really useful on lots of different topics. Yeah, or you've got the YouTube one. So yeah,
I think I was just thinking after all these updates, we've got documents that we send out, just kind of PDFs with, this is how you join and create an opportunity, and images and things like this. So I'm thinking, you know, now all these changes, we'll have to go back and edit all of those. So I guess that was why I was wondering if you had anything already. But
welcome to my world, Emily. Welcome to my world. It's how to make documentation and stuff like generic enough that they understand what you're talking about, but not so specific that, you know, not too specific that you've got to change it all the time. But yeah, with this big update, I know there'll be loads of things we have to do on this side, updating help videos and documentation and the rest of it. But so sorry about that. But it's progress. This is progress, Emily. What can I tell you?
Thank you.
Sorry, Anne, you got a question?
Just in there, when I went in and created one there, and it says about a survey link at the end. So what does that do, you know, in terms of the opportunity? I don't know. I went in and copied, but it was a result. Like on the resources page, I've got a, you know, a feedback, a kind of exit forum type thing when volunteers leave. So, you know, does that, if you say that, does it send it out at the end of the opportunity, or what's the benefit of that? There's that stage when you did it, you know,
if you're
what is that bit for?
If you're trying to, so did you upload it to the, is it on your system? It was on the beta?
No, it was on the test page, on the test thing. It said, have you got a survey link?
Ah, right. So yeah. So when you create, sorry, I'm just thinking ahead of where you put the document. So when you create the opportunity, okay, you get to a bit where it says surveys. Wherever it is. These opportunity, manage opportunity. Why? Do you want it to live? Want to access this opportunity? Yes. Pay with no. And then the surveys. Where's the surveys? Where's the surveys?
It's quite near the end. It was just.
Here we go. Okay, so you have the survey link. This is what you're asking about.
Yeah.
So this is linking out to a survey that you do in Google Forms or SurveyMonkey or something like that.
Right.
Now, you could, in theory, this would be trying to think ahead here. You could, in theory, because it would take you through to, you know, any web address. I could say google.com, and when they're on that opportunity, it will say, please mind completing this short survey, and they'll click on it, and it will take them to the Google homepage, google.com. Okay, which obviously crazy, but you could do that. There's nothing stopping the system would allow you to do that. Or you could say, the survey link is SurveyMonkey /327F, whatever the survey, you know, the actual link is for your survey. And that's great. They click on the link and it takes them through to the survey and asks them the question. That's probably the best way to do it. Heads up. But
right,
if you,
it's just really for that.
If you had it,
somebody's it's just really if you've got initial questions, then if you've got an initial survey or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you were saying like you had it on some kind of document already, the survey that you wanted to complete.
Well, that was an exit survey, you know, when they'd finished.
That's different. Yeah. An exit survey is different. Rolf, do you want to explain why we haven't embedded exit surveys so far?
Exit survey as when a volunteer leaves the service completely.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I know what you mean. No one's asked it before. As far as I'm aware.
Well, I'm just
No,
meaning,
agreed.
what would I use? What, you know, that's what I was asking. What would I use that for? You know, like, I'm trying to think, does MD send out? So that's just really maybe if an organisation is wanting to know a bit more about but then you kind of get that in the, you know, their information when they sign up, don't they? What, you know, if you wanted a bit more about what they were interested, what would you really use that for? I suppose is what
we've had a lot of interest in controlling when people get removed from the system, especially to align with some maybe GDPR rules they've got as an organisation in a wider sense. So after 2 years of inactivity, whatever that's defined as, they get removed from the system. And then you've got people that remove themselves from the system. So if someone removes themselves from the system, it's difficult to know when to send them that survey, because technically once they've removed themselves from the system, you can't send them anything else because they've removed their details. Yeah. And to send them something would then be a breach of GDPR. I mean, it's a technicality, but if everyone ever got upset about it, it would be troublesome. So, and then if you're about to remove someone and you send them an exit survey, they log in and then all of a sudden they're not eligible to be removed anymore. And so it messes up that automatic process. So we've not implemented it because of those sorts of perceived issues, and also because not many people have asked for exit processes in terms of surveys and things like that. I don't know whether it's not something that people do very much anymore. Because of the more dynamic nature of volunteers on a system like this, you know, they come in and go in as they see fit.
It's a good idea, though. It's a good idea.
I was just thinking, you know, again, what do people use that section for? Then does MD use it? Does MD on the call use that survey? But you know, why would you?
I put my hand up. We don't use it currently, but in my mind, it could be a good tool for us to start to gather case studies, and because we need to get better at that as a programme, and we struggle because we're very a small team with lots of volunteers. So I think it could be a good way for us to establish if there are volunteers willing to talk to us about their experience and get some of that data. So that's in my head how I'm thinking of it after today.
Yeah, that makes complete sense to me, Claire.
Right, sorry, the bit I don't get is, right, but you're doing this when you're setting up, you know, it's an opportunity. So why would you, you know, set up a survey at the beginning? That's what I'm meaning, because is it going to post it out as part of the, it's going to post it out as part of the enrolment. So therefore, you know, it wouldn't work for me for case studies because the person hasn't even started with you. That was what I was meaning. So it was just to really ask, you know, what to use it for.
The idea is that the volunteer does it when they finish with the opportunity. Now that's a difficult point to ascertain for flexible opportunities. For sessional opportunities, if they've not got another session booked and their old session was, this is an email that was added in this version, they're not on a current session, and the last session they were on that opportunity is more than a certain distance away in time, and there's a survey required, it emails them and reminds them to fill out the survey. So it's really designed for after the opportunity. So it's a post-opportunity survey.
Not post system, not like I've left the system, I've left the
No, but so does the system know, you know, it will do that. I was just thinking, right, this is somebody signing up, right? So they're going through a process and they're doing what they have to do to you know, you're asking, oh no, they're being told about the opportunity. So how would that appear to them, right? Would that just be in there? So you could be talking to them, engaging with them and saying, well, look, within your section on this opportunity, there's a survey in there. So you could verbally tell, but you've already posted it up at that stage. Would that work?
I'll show you now where it appears. So if a volunteer is on an opportunity, which has passed in some sense, so they've had sessions and they need to log and things like this, they get this page, which is their dashboard for managing that opportunity. And if there is a survey to fill out, it appears down here on the left.
Okay.
Once they've got hours to log. So once there's been activity, then they can start to fill out that survey. It's not very sophisticated, I guess, right now, in that it doesn't say that there has to be a certain number of sessions or a certain amount of activity, or it has to be after a certain time before they can fill it in. it just sort of tries to guess. Okay, there's been some time now, so it's here if you want to fill it in. And as I say, they get reminded post opportunity. Once they're not enrolled on any sessions and a certain time limit has passed, they get asked again, go and fill the survey out. So it only appears on the opportunity page.
So in a sense, you could almost have if it does that. Oh, I don't know. I'll have a wee look at it anyway. Thanks.
One of the things that I've taken away from today, when we were talking about how you effectively measure the value of your volunteering, is that it is a real combination of the quantitative and the qualitative. And the survey feature allows you to gather some more of that qualitative, but it sort of leans into some of our thinking that there is space within the app for some more survey tools, and when they get asked and how much control you have of when things get asked, and gathering data within the app rather than pointing out to external tools like MailChimp and whatnot, which is a conversation that we've been having in the office for the last 5 or 6 years as to how do we leverage what's already there versus what do we build ourselves. It's a very challenging balance to get right, but I've got a real sense today that there is a desire from people on the call to be able to gather more detailed information about their volunteers post opportunity, post session, and then, as we just said there, maybe even at the very end of that volunteer's life cycle with you, when they leave you as a volunteer full stop, that there is some call for data gathering at all 3 of those stages in that volunteer's experience. But we'll take that on board as to what we've listened to today, and we'll go away, and that maybe something goes onto the roadmap for the next couple of updates we can have a think about.
Yeah, good ideas, Ellie.
Any questions? I'm aware it's coming up to 3:15. Oh, Joanna, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, I've just been having a bit of a nosy around the beta site, and I've noticed a lot of mentioning of Welsh language options, and I was just wondering, is that the only additional language option, or is Gaelic also an option for additional language provision?
There's a couple of options for language options. So in terms of direct translation, where it will translate, it uses a human made translation system, and where you can enter details in both languages, that's limited to 2 languages at a time. So English and something else. So you can't have English and Welsh and Gaelic and Irish as well, Scots and Irish Gaelic, because you wouldn't be able to enter all those various languages. Obviously, it would become unmanageable. So that really deep translation is only available in one other language. But yes, it doesn't have to be Welsh. It could be whatever the first or second language is for your nation. And additionally, there is the computer translation, which is run by Google. So you can elect to switch that on, and you can define which languages Google offers to translate, but that is computer translated, so it's not as accurate.
Yeah, that's why we originally went down that road of having a dual input, is because obviously with Welsh, it's not the translations weren't good. With a lot of clients in Wales, because of where we're located. So went down that road of creating so people could type it in both languages, and they knew this is definitely going to be translated right because I've wrote it in both languages.
If Johnny, you wanted it in Gaelic, you would have to provide the translation file for us. So we give you a big long list of all the terms that need translating, and then we can import that information into the system, and it'll be available in whatever language you've provided us as the second language. So it's available in whatever language you want if you're able to provide us the translation file for that language, I guess is the caveat.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe like Facebook, we could have a pirate language. I don't know who's ever seen that. It's pretty funny.
Wow, I like that idea. Pirate language. What? I haven't seen that. What is
Facebook,
it?
Yeah.
Just R after everything.
Steve, could you I think Anne's created a workshop op in the beta site that's looking for someone to authorize. Would you be able to do that for her? I can see where people are slowly dropping out, so and I don't want to keep anybody longer than needs be. Has anybody got any other questions they might like to put to us?